Hi, I'd like to introduce you to Costa and Michael from Alfy Property in Melbourne, Victoria.
Hello.
Guys, how did you get started?
Well, look, Michael and I have been best mates for 15 years, and one of our passions has been property. Michael was in real estate in the early days, in his mid to late 20s and early 30s, I think he was. Sorry, I'm just giving out his age
recently,
there.
yeah.
Recently. And I was a property investment consultant for a boutique financial planning firm.
Funny thing is, we actually started out working selling suits at a menswear store.
Yes.
At a shopping centre in northwestern Melbourne.
You've given up the suits.
Yeah, no more suits.
Costa's still rocking the blazer, but we've given up the suits.
The reason that we decided to become independent buyers advocates is because we quickly realised there's a lot of buyers who are underrepresented in the market. They were being schooled at auction, they were paying more than they should have for property, and sometimes they couldn't find property for months, sometimes even a year or two.
Yeah.
So we thought, hey, there's a need for our help, for us to assist them, and therefore Alfy was created.
Yeah, so it's common in Victoria and Australia really for someone that's selling a property to hire a real estate agent to help them sell that property, but it's not as common for people to use a buyer's advocate. But the reality of it is that really, if you're buying your first property or even your second property, you're coming up against a professional that has been employed by the seller to get the absolute highest price for that property. So we come in and we help the buyer to try and make sure that you don't pay the absolute highest price for that property.
That's right.
That's what
in this market, that's probably not a bad thing.
It is different.
They are the experts of experts with anything to do with real estate, so if you've got questions, make sure you ask them, but here's a few you prepared earlier. So, with rentals when they're coming from overseas, where do you recommend that they start?
I think a good thing to start off with is make sure you put all your documentation in order. So it is a really competitive rental market at the moment within Melbourne, where we specialise. And it's really important to have as much supporting documentation as you can. So let's say you've rented while you've been in the UK, it's important to get references from your rental agents up there. Also, a good tip that we'd like to put forward is make sure that you have at least 2 months rent in your bank plus bond, and show supporting bank documentation for that money. The more documentation that you could provide, personal references, professional references, bank statements, previous employment, the better off you're going to be. What rental agents, because we have a rent roll as well that we look after, what especially Costa really likes is a bit of a cover letter with a rundown of your situation, why you're moving over here.
Yeah.
The more documentation, supporting documentation you can put forward, the better chances that you'll be accepted for rental property.
Just to add to that, one of our new tenants from New Zealand was successful. They're arriving on Sunday and they're picking up the keys on Monday. And one of the things I recommended, because it's not us that chooses the tenants, it goes to the rental provider. They say the last say, so to speak. And one of the things I recommend is treat it like a job interview. Good cover letter. Have all your paperwork ready, and good referencing. That will get you a long way.
So would you prefer paperwork to be physical, or would you prefer that to come in e-content?
E-content is the best way. It's easier to do and easier to read as well.
Yep.
And if you want to have a chat, we'd recommend you start doing some research while you're still in the UK before you get here. If you want to have a chat around areas, and if you need someone to potentially help you look at property before you get over, feel free to get in contact with us, and we'll see if we might be able to help you out.
Well, I have a feeling that you've half answered the question I'm about to ask, but how would you pick the best place to live for you?
Well, it all depends on lifestyle, okay? Inner city Melbourne or inner city suburbs tend to be a little bit more expensive than outer suburbs, and the type of property is quite different. So in Carlton, you might be paying $600, $650 a week for a 2-bedroom unit or potentially an apartment, because it's so close to the city and cafes and all that. But if you go somewhere a little bit further, say 20 k's from the city, with there's still good links to public transport and major road networks, you can pay maybe $200 less, and you have a bigger house. So it all comes to lifestyle, and also what's going to be close closest to work, how close work is as well. So that's the first thing that I would say. And again, as Mikey said before, you reach out to us and we can have these discussions to you and provide you a suburb profile, the pros and cons for the areas, and then you can make up your mind.
Yeah. Like Costa touched on, it's really about determining what type of lifestyle you want to lead when you get here. If you're happy to live in the suburbs and maybe use your car a little bit more, which is common within Victoria, pretty much everyone drives.
Yeah.
If you're not really keen on driving around on Melbourne roads that are a little bit less busy than we'd say in London, but if you want to be a little bit more public transport conscious, then you probably choose more inner city suburbs. Then you'd have to sacrifice on the size of the property.
Gotcha. Okay, so for our migrants that have pets, how's that going to go with rental properties?
It's a very good question. 2 years ago, a landlord or rental provider, as they're called now, could refuse a tenant for having a pet.
Yep.
But new laws just recently came out and states that no landlord or rental provider can refuse a tenant having a pet. They see it as part of the family. So I always say, be straightforward, be honest that you're going to have a pet. And sometimes a lot of renters get pet insurance. In case the pet does some sort of, creates an accident in the property, the owner's like, you know what, they got pet insurance, any damage, I know it's going to be covered.
Yeah.
You can have pets.
Another thing to keep in mind is that if you don't have a pet yet, but you're planning to, you don't have to put that on your application moving forward. But once you're already in the property, a rental provider can't refuse you the ability to get a pet once you're already in the tenancy.
Beautiful. So how would our migrants go about buying a property while they're still overseas?
So the best thing to do while you're still overseas, if you want to purchase, is get in contact with a buyer's advocate or real estate professional, which we can definitely help you with. What they'll be able to do is sit down and go through what your criteria is, what your negotiables and non-negotiables are for the type of property in the area that you want to look within, whether school zones are important to you, whether lifestyle aspects are important to you, and then they'll be able to put forward to you some potential suburbs that might fit your criteria.
Yep.
So once you get to a position where you know what your negotiables and your non-negotiables are, we can go out, put some suburbs in front of you, and then decide how we're going to go about viewing those properties, doing videos for you, taking photos, so you have a really, really good idea. Even though you're not here, you have as much information as possible to make sure that you're in a good position to purchase without actually being able to view the property yourself.
Look, just to add as well, the main website where everyone views property for sale or for rent is realestate.com.au, and one of the things that you will find, it's very common, is that there'll be a certain price or a price range on the property. So let's say they're trying to sell between $600,000 to $650,000, and then that property can go to auction and it could blow out like $200,000. So that's where we come in to assist our clients and potential buyers in educating them about the market and making them understand what the true value of that property is. And what you can buy with your budget as well. So we provide a massive overview. We search for you, we negotiate and purchase that property, and usually takes us anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks to find the property from when the client signs up and to when the keys is obviously at settlement, until they sign the paperwork, not that quick. It takes anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, so rest assured that we're always looking and viewing and inspecting property for.
To give you a quick example, so this is an example for a client that we worked with recently. They migrated here from the UK. They were already living within Melbourne, but they were looking for an investment property, which is a little bit different, but we did the whole process for them through Zoom. They didn't live close to our office, so they didn't see the point of driving and meeting with us face to face. We went out and viewed the properties, took detailed videos with commentary, photos, had a professional, a lawyer look over the contracts to make sure everything was above board, and then negotiated a successful sale for them. And they didn't actually view the property themselves up until 2 days before the property settled. So it's not uncommon for us to buy the property for clients sight unseen. But rest assured, we'll provide anyone with as much information as possible to make sure that they're comfortable, even if they can't do it themselves.
Beautiful. And fees, how's it go with different visas or? Help us out.
So it's very much on the individual circumstances. So depending on what visa you're coming across with will determine the amount of fees that you'll need to pay, any duties or tax. It's very, very important to sit down with a professional to go through that criteria. We're happy for you to get in contact with us. We go through an in-depth questionnaire and criteria process to work out what your individual circumstances are, and then we'll be able to give you a little bit of a better overview of what fees you could expect if you were to purchase property here.
Yeah, we tend to have a fixed fee model, and we're sort of moving away, and we have moved away from the percentage of the sale price model that a lot of advocates use right across Australia. We feel that the fixed model is fair, and it's one that a lot of our clients appreciate and like as well. But what that comes with is not just us looking for property, but it means that we do all the legwork. So we have to go to auction, we go to auction. There's different methods of sale. So you have your private sales, your auctions, selling auctions, and the list goes on. You have the expertise of two people and a team working for you to find that property within your price or within your budget or under your budget. That's our main goal.
Yeah. So regardless if it's our service fees or if it's any fees that you might need to pay from a government level, we'll evaluate on that on an individual basis and then put all the information forward to you once that's been determined.
All right, this is a bit of a loaded one, but house buying and rental processes, how do we go about it?
So this is a good question, especially here in Victoria, where the process of purchasing a property and the strategies that agents use is very complex and variable depending on the area that you're purchasing within. So parts of Melbourne are very, very auction dominated.
Yeah, very.
But there is other parts, especially regional Victoria, where it's more of your private sale markets. But there's all sorts of different variables within those different sales processes. So you've got expressions of interest, sale by set dates, silent auctions. All these different types of sale processes need very, very different negotiation strategies put forward into them. That's what we specialise in at Alfy. We look at the market that you're looking in, and then once we identify a property that you guys are happy with and we're happy to target for you, we'll put together a tailored negotiation strategy for that specific property. It takes a little bit of time if you're trying to go out there and do it by yourself to get educated in different markets. So you'll find commonly in an auction market, the price range that's advertised online and the price that property sells for are usually two very different figures. So it's important to understand true value and get a deep dive into reporting of what your money can actually get you, and we provide that through real comparable sales to properties similar to yours that fit your criteria. So that's really about the buying process. I'll let Costa touch a little bit about the rental process and how that works.
Yeah, the rental process in general is that you need to pay first month and bond up front. Once that those funds clear into the agent's trust account, you then receive the lease. Most leases these days are digital. Our ones are digital, so it can be sent straight to your email. You sign the agreement and the date that you are to move in when you're picking up the keys. One of the things that's very, very important is when you enter a property, or when you pick up the keys, you get what we call an ingoing inspection report. And that's a report that shows you how the house is before you entered. So, it takes photos, it's a very detailed, photos of the walls, the flooring, and, just in case any damages, So I always say, take that really seriously, because the agent might miss something in that report. So it's up to you, it's your responsibility to make sure that you note it down on that report, take photos and say, hey, there's damage here. So the day that you move out, so you can get your full bond back, it's been clear and it's been upfront. This is the issues the property had prior to that.
One of the things to keep in mind if you are to lease a property while you're still in the UK, a lot of agents will ask you to sign a declaration that you're accepting the property without actually being able to view it yourself. So keep in mind that some agents will ask you to sign legal documentations with that, just to keep them from a scenario where someone migrating comes through, looks at the property, realizes that it's not for them, and then decides not to rent it. So just something to keep in mind if you are leasing from overseas.
Just to add to that, I think the changes to I guess the rental market is really improved quite a lot for renters. In the past, just to hang portraits in the house, you had to get permission to get the hooks and all that. Now you're able to do that. You're able to do small changes to the property.
You can actually live in it.
You can live it within reason, and that's one of the things that the government really identified, that there's a lack of support for renters, and things have really improved in that sense. And also the minimum rental standards checks. So before you enter a property, the agent should provide you that all the electrical work in the property has been checked. It meets standards, as well as the gas and whatnot in the property.
Yeah.
It's really, really important that you receive that document. Otherwise, they're not doing the agents are not doing the right thing or following legislation as per the Residentials Act of 1997.
Wow, that's more information than I knew. Thank you very much.
No worries.
And the final question that we've got was, when is the best time to buy, and what kind of visa?
So with the visa, it's. I forgot to ask you to take the visa off.
That's okay.
What's the best time to
on
buy?
that one.
Yeah. If we can ask it again without
So just the best time to buy?
best time to buy. Do you want to touch on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, 3, 2, 1.
So the last question we've got is, when is the best time to buy?
That's a very, very good question, because last year, as you know, Melbourne had one of the most locked down cities in the world, and yet property was still booming, sales. Look, really around the springtime, as you know, in real estate, is a time where there's a lot of buyers out there. Auctions are going off left, right and centre. There's more competition. So we try to stay away from that, especially if you're from overseas. I think towards the early on in the year, during the winter months, we feel that consumer confidence might be a little bit less intense as spring, and there's an opportunity there to purchase something privately or with less competition. That's not to say that we can't purchase during springtime, or summer. So we always say that early in the year, or at this, anywhere between May and August, it's a really good time to pick up a really good bargain or a property at a good price. And if you'd like to know more about that and how we can help you, book in a 30-minute consultation for free on their house, and we can discuss how that looks like and the type of property you can purchase within your budget.
Beautiful. Thanks guys, been absolutely amazing hanging out with you and getting some more information. No doubt we'll be doing this again.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Let's go.